It was 2 days. Now it's 5. And then the country of Iran sends us a gift. They sent it. It's amazing.
It was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us.
Now, there's a few words that he says that are fairly important there. We already got this present, this singular big present that they sent us, and it's already arrived.
It's a prize.
Okay, so those things are important. Let's go to the next video. He finally announces what the present is. Let's get
Steve,
to that.
can I reveal the present?
You can do anything you want to say.
They said to show you the fact that we're real and solid and we're there. We're going to let you have 8 boats of oil. 8 boats. 8 big boats of oil. This was 2 days ago. And they'll sail up tomorrow. That was 3 days ago. And I didn't think much about it. And then I watched the news, and they said, a very good anchor, actually, happened to be Fox. But I watched it, and he said, something's unusual happening. There are 8 boats that are going right up the middle of the Hormuz Strait. 8 big tankers are going loaded up with oil right through. And I said, well, I guess they were right, and they were real. And I think they were Pakistani flagged.
Yes.
And I said, well, I guess we're dealing with the right people. And actually, they then apologized for something they said, and they said, we're going to send 2 more boats. And it ended up being 10 boats. All right, I hope I haven't screwed up your negotiations, but I thought it was appropriate to say, because I did taunt you the other day by saying they're going to give us a present.
What are we watching?
Big if true.
This is.
So
now we got 10 big boats.
we got 10 big boats.
It's like we're watching Sesame Street almost. We're counting.
I just don't.
You know, how many boats did Iran send?
Everything is
It
so.
wasn't one big boat, not 2 big boats.
Everything is so difficult right now because this is the case with most politicians, but Trump talks a lot more than most politicians do. And he lies just as much as all the other politicians, but he talks about 10 times as much. And so it's so difficult to ever judge what is actually happening.
His lie ratio is way up there.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's probably like he lies about as often as a typical politician does, but we see him 10 times as much as we see typical politicians. And so it's just right out there in your face all the time. I got to lean towards this being bullshit. I'm just telling you, that's what I feel like right now, is that this is not true. To add on to that, Bloomberg says tanker tracking data since March 23rd shows no sign of the 8 boats full of oil that President Trump said were gifted to the U.S. Quote, if this was some great present, you'd think both sides would want it known for their own reasons. Actually, I would say Iran wouldn't want to telegraph that they were giving a present to the United States. So I would say that part of it is not, that quote is not true. But what are we talking about here? We're still warring currently. We're still doing a war, an unauthorized, undeclared war, by the way. Oh, the timeline. Okay, so yesterday, he says, as per Iranian government request, please let this statement serve to represent that I am pausing the period of energy plant destruction by 10 days to Monday, April 6th, 2026 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Talks are ongoing, and despite erroneous statements to the contrary by the fake news media and others, they are going very well. Thank you for your attention to this matter, DJT. So now it's 10 days. I have the feeling Trump has done this before, and I think this is him just imposing a timeline on them. He could be having some talks with someone, but you don't know. Is the IRGC even going to listen to whoever this person is? We don't even know. I mean, it's like a separate thing. You know, they got like 1 million normal military members, and then they got like a couple 100,000 IRGC members that they killed the heads of the government. and whoever this person is that you're talking to, that speaker of the parliament that we mentioned, that's the person they're talking to. Like, is that who is giving commands in Iran? Do we have any clue whether or not, even if they did come to some kind of agreement, that it would be followed through at all? But I don't know, and neither do you.
Who knows?
And neither does he.
Did you end up listening to Joe Kent on Tucker?
On Tucker, yes.
Okay.
I did.
I think so. To me, Trump is kind of following what Joe Kent basically said, which is that Trump is going to have to figure out a way to walk this back. And he basically said Trump's the guy to do it. I believe him when he said, when he had a personal meeting with Trump prior to this, that Trump was very kind and understood what was happening. Of course, now he publicly shames him. But Joe's like, I expected that because I'm not being loyal. But behind closed doors, Trump...
These Joes ain't loyal, is what he said. Yeah.
These Joes ain't loyal.
That's what he said.
So anyway, I think that Trump all of this is just show to find a way to get us out of this mess, which, hopefully so. Thank God. Like, let's find a way. I don't care if there's fluff to it. If you got to say, because he's got to find a way to say we won. He does. Look, we won. We met the objective. We took out, 20 of their top members. That was the goal. We know Israel wants to do more destruction there. We've talked with Israel and said, hell, you're not going to do that, or we're going to stop your defenses. And so we've met all the objectives. We now have achieved peace in the Middle East. We can go back to normal. And
I support him doing that. If he thinks he can find an off-ramp, I support that.
I think that's...
If he has to if he has to, out of nowhere, create an off-ramp to stop it, because it got out of hand and he thought that he was going to kill the Ayatollah and the people were going to rise up and there was going to be a new government, and it didn't happen and he wants out of it. Yeah, I support that. There's an issue. Is Iran going to go along with that? Is Israel going to be okay with that? I don't know. Are they going to open the strait? Because if they don't open the strait, this is pretty bad. It's pretty bad stuff. And then we got to send in troops or something like that. I don't know. Pretty much everyone's...
What if we just say screw the strait and just make our own oil?
Well, we have our own oil. The problem is it cuts down the supply of oil for the whole world, which increases the price of the oil for everyone, since it's a worldwide market. So you're going to cut out...
It's an artificial price anyway.
10 to 20% of the available market supply and have the same demand.
Doesn't OPEC do that anyway?
Oh, I mean, they randomly, they'll decide to cut down. Yeah.
So
I would like to not be dependent on whether or not the strait's open. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, that's number one. I don't know what to call it. Timeline something. Boats and timelines.
Boats and Joes.
Boats and Joes. That's what it is. Might as well go with that. Number two, I just have to do this. I'm going to be a Diego Garcia truther until proven otherwise. I just have to. Okay. Because I still see people mention it. And I checked up. I told you I didn't follow the news this week. No named official, Pentagon, defense, anyone has come out and said that this even happened.
You did check up on this story.
On the record. I did check up on this story because on Monday's show, I went out there and I put myself out there and I said, this is fake. I've been there. And so I wanted to check up on it. I got
You have authority
you get
on this topic.
You get a whole handle of Fireball for like $6. It's crazy.
That seems weird. It seems like it'd be more expensive because that's a tough place to get to.
You would think, but they got some good deals.
All right.
Some good deals over there.
Same deals in Greenland, by the way.
We play Fireball Pong. Let me tell you what, that game gets out of control pretty quick.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to let you know. Okay. Anyway, what we're talking about, Iran targeted Diego Garcia base with ballistic missiles. I don't think this happened.
Fake news.
But it could have happened. Totally could have happened. Here's what I really think is dumb about this. I think it's so dumb for people to just accept things like this with like no one to back it up, not even any named Pentagon officials going on the record saying that this happened. There's just a news story that cites a couple unnamed anonymous U.S. officials that says that this happened. And then all of a sudden we have this big talking point that you hear on Newsmax and Fox News and News Nation and News and all the
bots
all the
on
news,
X.
all the people on X that all the Ziobots on X talking about their having twice as much range as what we thought before, and like no one ever has to try and back it up with just to even make sure it's real. You're just like, oh, the Wall Street Journal had 3 sentences in a story that cited unnamed U.S. officials that said that this happened. We have literally no other information on this whatsoever. And now we're just going to use this as war propaganda. That's just what we're going to do now. That's just wild.
Somebody from the Fed Haters Club saying they mislabeled the Scandinavian countries on that map. Is that true?
Well, it's probably AI. Well, it says illustration down the bottom.
Yeah, isn't Finland on the outside of Norway?
I can't really see it. Because Norway and Sweden border each other, don't they?
Look on the big
screen. Or wait, am I getting that wrong? I can't remember. You'd think I would know, because when you've been somewhere, you know everything about the region. And I've been to Norway too.
You've been there too.
But I don't know. I didn't do well in my world history class. So, okay, I'm going to get to a few things here. People saying embarrassing for a lot of the people who have spent the last 2 weeks citing the limited range regime missiles as supposed evidence that they aren't a direct threat.
So Norway's furthest east, then you have Sweden, and then Finland's on the inside, which borders Russia. So that's not even a real map.
Whoops. Huh. Not even a real map. How about that?
What is happening up there?
Can't even get good propaganda these days. You know?
Germany,
they just gotta...
Poland.
I tried to have AI make a map one time of something, like to show all the countries that we had bombed, and it was laughably terrible.
What a great call out. I didn't even think about that.
Never thought about it at all. Plus, those ranges on the map are fake too. So, Ari Fleischer says Iran just fired 2 missiles at a target 4,000 kilometers away. London is 4,400 kilometers from Tehran. Tell me Iran is not a threat to the world.
Well, it's not a threat to London, clearly, because London is another 400
reach it.
Yes.
Yeah. Will Chamberlain says, please tell me more about how Iran wasn't an imminent threat. Should we have waited until their ballistics could reach Bermuda? But
Jamaica.
Why Bermuda? That's...
Ooh, I want to take you.
Scott Jennings says, so definitely a threat. Imminent, even. The fact that even if you took this as true, the fact that they have the capability to hit, say, 400 kilometers away from London does not make them an imminent threat to anyone in the U.S. It's not like, oh, you should go to work today, and if you don't give some of your money to blowing up people in Iran or giving it to Israel so they can do the same, we're going to put you in jail because this country is an imminent threat to the U.S.
I mean, look at it. Look at it with countries who have like actual nukes. Like Russia has legit nukes that could reach anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean they're an imminent threat?
North Korea? I mean, they're pretty crazy, right?
Just because you have the capability doesn't mean you have the motive.
No.
Unless you're being attacked.
We've got some more stuff on that coming up.
Motive.
I'm trying to save some of my points on that coming up because we've got some more great war propaganda. Like some of this war propaganda for number 3. Some of the war propagandists out there working pretty hard. No shortage these days. Let me see which one we got here. There's a good one with Alan Dershowitz. Okay, let's hear from that guy.
What do you think about Bibi saying that the world needs to coalesce behind it and go against Iran?
This is the most important war since 1939, since Nazi Germany. If Iran is allowed to develop nuclear bombs, he will do what Hitler did, and there will be millions and millions of deaths. Had President Trump been in charge in 1935, 1936, I think the Holocaust would have been prevented. I think he would have gone in after Nazi Germany. He would have destroyed it the way he is destroying Nazi Iran, and the Holocaust would have been prevented. We're preventing another Holocaust, a nuclear Holocaust, that Iran would clearly inflict not only on Israel, but on Europe. We now know that his rockets can reach Europe, and ultimately on the United States. So this is the most important war.
I just have to go through this chain of events here. Which, first off, it's so
God, they just stroke
It's
that Holocaust.
Always Hitler, Holocaust,
Yeah.
Nazis, every single time.
It's taught in everyone's school books as the worst period in history ever, which, by the way,
It's a pretty bad period in
It's
history,
bad.
but not everything is the freaking Holocaust and Nazi Germany and
also,
Hitler.
I would argue, and maybe you'll call me anti-Semitic for this, it's not the worst period on a group of people that's ever existed.
Well, no.
There's been worse. We can talk about Mao's China.
Well, there's
You can talk about Stalin's Russia.
As far as the amount of deaths go, there's been way worse times.
Yes.
for humans throughout history. But it's just
That doesn't mean it wasn't bad.
this whole like Iran is Hitler. He would do what Hitler did, and in this scenario, it's not just that they get past 60% enrichment, and then they've got like 88 or 89 to 90% enrichment that they're going to have. For these big nuclear bombs, they're then gonna bomb Israel, and then here's the crazy part: there's not going to be any response from the world after that. They're going to be able to bomb Israel. They're going to be able to bomb all of Europe. They're just going to take out Europe, all the other countries all around them. They're going to do all. No one's going to stop them before that either. Okay, they're just going to keep bombing. They don't even have the bombs to do this. Okay, they can't. We don't even. Oh, wait, they fired missiles at Diego Garcia. You see how important that stupid story is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so then they're going to take out Europe. And then, of course, they're going to march right on to nuking the U.S. after that with their ICBMs that they don't have still. All right? And so that's why you had to stop them. Like right now, no one's going to put a stop to them before that. Not like our thousands and thousands of nukes that we have, or the interceptors that we have left, or any of the other countries in the region that have any of these tools at all. They're just going to destroy the entire world before anyone can do anything about it. So you better stop them. My God, can you imagine if Hitler had nukes? That's what we were talking about coming up here with Iran. Okay, we got a little bit more war propaganda. Let me see which one I picked. Here's a little bit from Rubio.
Clerics, these are religious fanatics. Look what they are doing now. At their weakest point, this is the weakest Iran has ever been, and look at what they're doing. They're attacking embassies. They're attacking hotels. Imagine what these people would do if they had a nuclear weapon. That is an unacceptable risk for the world. By the way, the president's not just doing a favor to the United States and to our people. This is for the world. He defined very clearly on the first night of this operation what the goal was. We were going to destroy.
I just have an issue with
For the world, man.
It is for the
How
world.
can you
but
be upset about this?
you're now using their response to you attacking them as the justification for why you had to attack them. They're not even going back to
Because
like,
just imagine if they had nukes,
if
which
they had
don't
nukes.
have.
Look at what they're doing in retaliation for us launching a massive war against them and killing their leader. Okay?
Classic Darvo.
It's just, and look at how they've responded to that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they had nuclear weapons and so therefore oh my God. These freaking people, man. It's so sad to see. What a waste. Just what a waste of people.
Just a classic reverse
money.
victim offender.
It is.
You know?
Yeah. Now we have to go to JD Vance.
It's like it's imagine I punch you in the face, and then in response you like get brass knuckles and punch me back. And
Yeah.
I'm like, imagine the reason why I had to punch Nate in the face in the first place is because imagine if he would have had a nuclear bomb on the other end of his fist.
Exactly.
I would have been
nuclear tipped brass knuckle.
I would have been taken out. Look at the way that he responds.
Could have been bad.
To this attack.
That's what Hitler did or something.
Well, you're Japanese anyway.
Something like that.
Imagine if you would have had a bayonet on the other end of that brass knuckle.
This is my fault.
Just imagine, folks.
This is all my fault. Okay, JD Vance has got new stupid propaganda for, I don't know, people who watch Fox News, I guess, to take in and get afraid of. And that is this newfangled technology device that Iran is probably going to invent out of nowhere here in the future once they have their nuclear capabilities. And here he goes.
When I say options, I think it's important the American people know options for what? And it's options to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. You talk about people who walk into a crowded supermarket and have a vest on, and they blow up the vest and a couple of people get killed, and that's a terrible tragedy. What happens when what's on the vest is not something that can kill a couple of people, but can kill many, many tens of thousands of people? That is the most important American national security objective that exists for any administration at any time, is you don't want the worst people in the world to have a nuclear weapon. That's why the president is doing this. That's why the president cares so much about this.
All right, so what we got in that clip was a great new invention, and it is a suicide vest that people are going to wear, but it's not just a normal bomb. It's a nuclear bomb on a vest that is going to kill tens of thousands of people in the area, which is not possible. It's not something that exists, I hope. Good God. And so now it's wild to just keep following this chain all the way down, because we went from last summer, it was they've got 60% enriched uranium. It wouldn't be that hard for them to go ahead and kick it up to 90%, which is where the real danger happens. There's going to be a sprint to a nuclear bomb. And so we got to go bomb these facilities.
Put on vests.
They're at 60. We're super worried. They're definitely on track to 90.
By the way, we obliterated the program just a year ago.
Took them out. Yeah, we took them out less than a year ago.
Yeah.
We took them out. Okay. And so they're going to make it up to 90. And then after that, which, you know, you also might want to think about the fact that just if you had the enriched uranium, you didn't have to build the bomb. You'd have to have a delivery mechanism for the bomb. You'd have to have a way to either drop it or launch the bomb. And they don't even have the bomb itself or the highly enriched uranium.
They do have vests, though.
So they got nuclear vests. So then the other thing is, they've got enough 60% enriched uranium to make 11 atomic bombs. Okay, so they've got 60. We're really scared they're going to take it to 90, and then they'll be able to make a bomb. But then we're like, okay, they have 60, and that's enough itself to make 11 atomic bombs, was the most recent quote that I saw. And they still aren't actually working towards making that bomb. And so now we got to get that. And then we're going to have like nuclear tipped ICBMs. That's a big thing that I have to, imagine them. They're going to be able to fire these nuclear tipped ICBMs anywhere. Okay, they don't have ICBMs also. And now we've made it all the way to these things they also don't have. On top of that, what if they invented a completely new technology that no one has at all? And they go from not even be able to make a bomb to being able to make the most advanced nuclear device that's ever existed in the history of mankind. Wouldn't that be scary? Guys.
I mean, when you put it that way, yeah. I'm all for it. Go after these guys.
What if they put microchips in your brain, but they were nuclear bomb microchips?
Yeah. They're taking the Israel route a step further. Screw pagers.
Yeah. No pagers.
Yeah.
But imagine nuclear pagers. That would be scary too.
Yeah.
What if they just put nuclear bombs inside the oil that they were shipping over here on those 8 boats, and you were just driving your car along, and all of a sudden, mushroom cloud, the smoking gun comes in the form of a mushroom cloud, which was your car that had some Iranian free oil on it. That's scary. That's scary stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know how they don't hear themselves make these talking points. I'd be like, you think that won them over?
All right.
But by the way, it wins a lot of people over.
It does.
Which
totally
is sad.
works. I mean, that's what you get people scared. They'll agree to do a lot of stuff when they're scared. They want safety. So they want to feel like you're giving them safety while you're actually making them less safe. Mark Levin wants to push towards ground troops, of course. He says, you cannot remove all of the highly enriched uranium.
Nuclear grade.
There it is, better. In Iran, without going into the tunnels and facilities deep underground to get it. I don't know what the administration's plan is, but I'm guessing this is at least one reason why there are public reports that some of the special forces are being called up and deployed. And he's upset with Nancy Mace, who came out of a briefing and said that she didn't support ground troops before, and she definitely doesn't support ground troops after what she had heard in the intelligence briefing. And so he's upset with that. And so we moved all the way to this We just need to do some bunker busters back last year to like, now we're going to kill the Ayatollah and the people are going to rise up, to then, we're just going to bomb the hell out of them for a long time, to no ground troops. I've heard so many of these people say ground troops. No one's talking about ground troops in Iran. That's just not, and now it's like, well, of course there's got to be ground troops. Of
You got to
course.
sweep up the nuclear dust.
Which it does. If they're going to get their uranium, we talked about this, I think, on Monday. This stuff, first off, is obliterated all over the place, but it's still very dangerous. It's obliterated all over the place. And a lot of this stuff, buried deep down in mountains that we hit with bunker busters. You don't just have to send in troops. You got to send in construction crews. You got to have a whole teams of people just digging stuff up the whole time. And so, yeah.
It's a jobs program.
There you go. Should send them with spoons. Okay, we've got, the Ben Shapiro clip. Yeah, we'll play Ben Shapiro clip. That's fine. We could do that. Let's listen to Ben Shapiro. If you can imagine, he's in favor of the war.
Oh, yeah.
He thinks we should do it.
Of course.
So here's
It
some Ben
seems
Shapiro.
constitutional.
Yeah.
Berkeley, the American people actually have some patience. Our shortest wars were longer than the current conflict. The Persian Gulf War involved 43 days of active operations. The Kosovo NATO air war lasted for 78 days. Even deposing Noriega in Panama in the late 80s, that lasted for 6 weeks. And also, Americans are not dumb. We don't believe that if you're involved in military activity, you're not going to lose anybody. Because, again, if necessary military activity can only be pursued at zero cost, there's no use in having a military. Literally, the point of a military is to do hard and dangerous things. That's why our military members are heroes. That's because they're willing to undertake that sacrifice for a greater good. Now, Iran, for its part, seems to be counting on this view of Americans that have been shared by pretty much all of our enemies at one time or another, that were weaklings, that were incapable of mobilizing for victory. Hitler famously thought that America was decadent and unstable. In one private conversation, according to sort of Hitler's notes, reportedly he said, quote, "I don't see much future for the Americans. It's a decayed country. They have the racial problem, the problem
You see how quick we made it to Hitler in this already? Mm-hmm. Everything's Hitler all the time.
of
So is
social
Hitler.
inequalities. Everything about the behavior of American society reveals that it's half Judaized and the other half nigrified." And this is Hitler talking. How can one expect a state like that to hold together? And during Vietnam, the Viet Cong counted on the idea that Americans would get tired, that Americans would get bored. And after a while, they were right. Americans did get tired. After a while, they were right. Americans did want out. We should know that there were 50,000 American dead by that point. In Iraq and Afghanistan, too, our enemies thought, okay, they can just outlast the Americans. But here is the point. To outlast Americans, typically, requires not months, not weeks, years. Reality is that there is no way to extricate ourselves from this situation right now. There's no way to extricate ourselves from this situation by simply running away. That does not leave Iran in control of the Strait of Hormuz, which means $100 to $150 barrels of oil from here to forever. That is a point that was made by Larry Fink over at BlackRock. Not a Fink fan, but he's right about this.
I do.
Now,
So he goes on.
Now, hang on a second, though. Imagine what oil would be at right now if we just never would have attacked them.
Yeah, it's weird. The Strait was, it's March 27th. The Strait was open a month ago.
Wide open.
Actually. Yeah. It was open at that
In fact,
time.
gas was going down.
Yeah. Now in this clip,
It was going way down.
He goes
I
on the-
saw $1 something gas prices.
it was, the $2.40 was the lowest I ever paid. That I paid during this administration so far. And it's, it's a lot more now, for sure. The weird part of this clip, now I didn't listen to the entire episode, but he spends over a minute talking about how, well, you can't just leave Iran now. I mean, that leaves them in control of the Strait of Hormuz, so we just can't do it. We're going to have to do something to get that back open.
Unless you want $150 barrel of oil.
Well, the weirdest,
or forever.
The weirdest part was he didn't say, well, we can't leave now because Iran is an imminent threat to the United States of America.
He missed the talking point.
Yeah, that's not what it was. So we can't leave now because we've got to open the thing that was open a month ago. So of course we have to keep going on this war. What are you talking about? Now, I didn't watch the entire episode. There was a 3.5 minute clip, and that was not part of it at that time. So let's keep that in mind. Let me get to my Lindsey Graham clip. I believe I have that right here. This one happened, I think, early in the week, and this is where they're talking about Karg Island, and he brings up Iwo Jima.
And they're running out of money. So here's what I tell President Trump. Keep it up for a few more weeks. Take Karg Island, where all of the resources they have to produce oil. Control that island. Let this regime die on a vine.
Is this going to, though, take Karg Island? Is it going to involve U.S. troops on the ground? Let me just read you something from The Atlantic. Does an assessment on that. They say U.S. troops may well take Karg Island. We believe in their ability to do so, but only to endure ballistic missile strikes, drone attacks, petrochemical smoke, all without a reliable means of obtaining logistical support. The result could be a grinding war of attrition. They talk about how far away they would be from resupply.
I'm sort of tired of all this armchair quarterbacking. This has been an amazing military operation. God bless the fallen.
But it's a difference when we talk about troops on the ground.
I trust the Marines, not that guy. I trust DOD. We got 2 Marine expeditionary units sailing to this island. We did Iwo Jima. We can do this. The Marines, my money is always on the Marines. I don't know if you take the island or you blockade the island, but I know this.
So you guys know the talking point on this thing that everyone's talked about plenty of times throughout this week.
I like how he shimmies in his chair.
Yeah, so gay.
Yeah.
Everyone knows the talking point on this, but to take Karg Island and she brings up, oh, by the way, they're just going to be like target practice for drones and missiles, and Iran's well aware of where the island is. They probably know exactly how to hit the island. They've been, thinking about this whole game plan for a while now, and so they're going to get there, not a super big island or anything, and they're just going to be sitting there as target practice for Iran to hit them. And his response is, well, we took Iwo Jima.
We can take this.
And so we can take this. And so the obvious...
Why don't you go take it, Lindsey?
The disgusting part of this is that you had over 20,000 casualties on that, and I think 6,000 to 7,000 deaths, U.S. soldiers on that. Like, what are we talking about bringing up freaking Iwo Jima for this stupid island next to Iran?
That's a fine price to pay for those Marines, Nate. Not Lindsey.
He trusts the Marines.
But the Marines.
I feel bad laughing because this guy, it's so serious. And if we do this, I think sadly, a lot of people will die. And I have a deep hatred for Lindsey Graham and for people that are like him. I heard there's a guy running for office in Montana, says if he wins, he'll draft a bill to draft Lindsey Graham into the military, and which it's like a clever marketing tactic, not like people are going to sign the bill or anything to draft Lindsey Graham into the military, but that is what he deserves. He deserves to be put straight on he deserves to be parachuted straight into Iran, honestly. I don't know what that means for him.
Yeah.
But that's what he deserves. He really does.
We'll give him a couple mags.
The fact that this guy keeps winning his elections and has kept winning his elections over and over again, it really says something about it. Makes you consider that whole term limits thing too. I'm not a big fan of term limits because it doesn't address the actual root cause of the problem, but he's a good argument. It's a good argument for term limits, like half a term for people named Lindsey Graham. That's the term limit that I would like to put on people. Okay, number 5, real quick. Trump says some quiet parts out loud, which he's great at doing. He's always great at saying some quiet parts out loud. I do. Honestly, I appreciate it. And he talks about war right here.
But they're doing it for 2 reasons. Number one is they want to deflect from all of the tremendous success that we're having in this military operation. I won't use the word war because they say if you use the word war, that's maybe not a good thing to do. They don't like the word war because you're supposed to get approval. So I'll use the word military operation, which is really what it is. It's called a military decimation. But they don't like the good publicity. They don't.
If you say the word war, well, you got to get permission for that.
He's looking around like he has this thing.
But a military decimation, no problem.
Totally fine. He has, he's met with his advisors and people let him know, like, you can't say war. And it's pretty interesting to see the admissions.
It's in the Constitution. Like, you can't say war. They
literally aren't saying war because if you keep calling it the war too often, it's like, well, you kind of have to get approval for that thing. I mean, we're looking at a possibility of having ground troops in Iran, like as soon as this weekend. And they haven't even done an authorization of use of military force, let alone declaring a war. And he knows that. And he straight up admits that he's supposed to have approval for this, and he doesn't. And so he's literally not going to call it the word that it's called in the Constitution in order to keep doing it, even though that's what it is. And he knows that that's what that is. It's
so wild.
It's upsetting. And also, I love that his filter is very low. He lets those things out. They have to start telling him after they give him, the talk on. It's like, hey, you can't call the war because that's illegal for us to do this. Okay, so you got to call it military operation. Most American people are dumb as hell. They'll go for it. That'll be just fine. And at the end of that statement, they have to say, and don't repeat that I told you this on stage sometime. You're not supposed to do that.
But then he does.
And
I agree. The Fed Haters Club is calling out that it's like the left's redefining of language. So, for instance, like, Bundy says here, if we call it treatment instead of mutilation, it's totally fine.
Well, yeah.
If
care.
we call it,
it's gender affirming care.
If we call it a fetus instead of a baby, well, then it's not murder. There's no big deal.
Gender affirming, you're affirming gender, and you're doing care. You're not doing mutilation.
Yeah.
It's treatment. Okay.
What's weird is you're affirming the gender that they're not.
Yeah, it's actually gender conversion surgery or gender conversion therapy.
Yeah,
is what it is.
That would be bad to say.
Yeah, it's a literal, the anti word of affirmation. It's a denial.
And it's, this is what's weird to me is that the right hates the left so much, but then they just use the same tactics.
Yeah, I mean,
that the left does, and then that's totally fine.
When it comes to your leader or your side, like getting to do whatever they want when they're in power, people will go to great lengths to rationalize it, because they think that's ultimately, I think that they think that's probably what's best for the country or the direction of the country. But I'm just not into all the lying and everything that goes on. And I want to remind everyone, this is a pretty unpopular war. This has got like 35% approve doing the war right now. And the latest numbers I saw were like 7% approve of ground troops going in. Which, those people are insane. I'm sorry. Or they're misinformed. They're thinking out of fear, emotions, not actually thinking that through, but 7% approve. And we could still just end up doing it. And we could end up having $200 billion extra added on to our next spending bill. And it could be extremely unpopular. And a lot of people could die. And inflation could go up.
And when the Republicans lose the midterms, I don't feel bad.
Republicans could lose the midterms. This could usher in all of those terrible things that people say about Democrats and what they're going to do for the future. And there is a mechanism to stop this from happening. And that is that you're supposed to get approval from Congress before going and doing this. And it's clear that a majority of the American people don't support doing this. Therefore, their representatives should not vote in favor of doing this. And they're just going to skip over that. And everyone's going to be fine with it. I mean, good Lord, at least in Iraq, they got approval from Congress for that.
Even though it was based on a lie.
Total BLEEP show. Like, yeah, the whole thing was based on a lie, but we're just going to ignore that and just say that he can do whatever he wants.
Oh, they said it right there in his cabinet meeting when he was asked if he could present the president.
Yeah, they said, I noticed that.
Well, sir, you can do whatever you want.
Okay, let's move on real quick. Couple Israel things. This one was flagged by many people in the Fed Haters Club. Just a little bit of hypocrisy and just not being able to look in the mirror, not being very self-aware. This Arsen Ostrovsky posts this map and says it's 2 a.m. in Israel and over 1 million people are now in bomb shelters after the Iranian regime just fired another wave of missiles. And Glenn Greenwald asks, why are they doing this? The question would be like, it feels like maybe there was a war that started, like you guys just went and attacked them a bunch,
It's not a war, Nate.
Sorry.
It's a military
You guys started a military operation.
Military decimation.
But does Israel call it a war? What are their rules on this whole thing?
I don't know.
Did they sign a declaration of war against everyone like a long time ago and they're just using that still?
I like the military decimation.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's what that's. That's a good adjective.
This person responds with and says, so you think it's okay and justified to rain down? By the way, asking like, why do you think they're doing this does not mean you're justifying it. It means that there sometimes are consequences and repercussions to actions that you take, and those should be considered when you decide to go do something.
All he did was ask the question, why are they doing this?
So you think it's okay and justified to rain down missiles with cluster munitions at an entire civilian population in Israel at 2 a.m.? Thanks for clarifying. And that's where it just gets real dumb, because these people haven't given two S words about raining down hellfire on civilian populations in a place, say, called Gaza for years now.
Or Iran.
Even cluster munitions. I mean, they have broken many of the fake international laws that we have, that are supposed to prevent people from doing these things, and been totally fine. But when it's happening back to you, it's not a defense. I got to skip over a few things. I'm sorry. We just have to. Not a defense of those things, but it's weird when it's turned back on you. All of a sudden, you've got like these principles about the way people should conduct themselves in war and not targeting civilian populations, even though you guys have military facilities literally located in civilian populations in Israel too. That's weird. All right, number 7. Sorry, we just skipped over a pretty good portion of content there, but we'll go to number 7. Trump won an award. You might think things are getting pretty bad, but they're not, because Trump is still out there winning awards. Okay? So he gets
which he probably orchestrated.
No. That's not it.
He just said in the State of the Union that he wanted to award himself the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
He would probably.
Or wait, no, it was the Congressional Medal of Honor,
I think.
Yeah. He's like, I asked about that.
Honors this 100-year-old guy.
I asked about that. They wouldn't let me do it.
Yeah, I give myself one I would for sure.
What?
No, but he's getting an award. He gets it presented to him by Mike Johnson. Here we go.
So much for the American people, and we want to honor him in some small way, some token of our appreciation for his leadership. And so tonight we have created a new award. We're going to do something we've never done before. We're going to honor him with a new award that we'll present annually from this point forward. But he is the suitable and fitting recipient of the first ever America First Award. We can think of no better title for what that is.
Hey, they're like in
Of course.
They're in the room.
This would be like him winning the Nobel Peace Prize right now.
People writing up ideas, I've been paying attention to a lot of people saying that we're going to war for Israel. We're not taking care of stuff here at home. Economy, not looking real great right now. Inflation heating up, all this stuff. People are kind of upset that we haven't done a whole lot of things here. What do you guys think we ought to do? And someone's like, hey, we could do what we said we were going to do, like on the campaign trail. That person got fired immediately out of a cannon. And then someone's like, what if we just give him an award? People are saying that he's not America First. How could they say that if he just won the America First award?
The first ever.
They'd have to be alive. They created this award because of how America First he was. It didn't even exist before because no one else had ever been America First. They just created it.
Not even George Washington.
Not any of them at all. But this guy, this is the most America First we ever felt, so we got to create this award. Okay, yeah, that's obviously ridiculous and dumb. That's number 7. Let's move on to number 8. We can make fun of Taylor Lorenz because she's still doing this. Her brain is broken. Okay? She's still doing this. She said, if you're traveling to Cuba or any impoverished community, or just generally, I don't know why she had to mention Cuba. Like, you just say any impoverished community anywhere, or just generally, if you're traveling, is what she eventually gets to.
Should be if you're traveling, comma.
If you're traveling, you should be wearing a mask. We are 6 years into an ongoing pandemic.
She can't be serious.
And airborne disease is real, no matter how many leftists want to scream and stomp their feet and shout RFK talking points.
2.7 million views. She's still getting paid for this.
And then she goes on the first comment here. It's really so easy to not infect and kill people around you. No one is saying you have to be perfect, but if you respond to disabled people asking you not to kill or maim them and other vulnerable folks by having a meltdown instead of showing basic solidarity, you are not a serious person. And she's not a serious person. She never thought to ever look into anything and see if wearing masks work. I know that you and I differ on the masks thing because you were a big masking guy during COVID, as everyone remembers.
Properly used masks.
Okay. She never dug into any whether or not masks even work. And she still, essentially, or has before, like, people are murderers if they're not wearing masks when you've got no evidence that they decrease any spread whatsoever. There are studies that will show masks work as long as you're using them in like a scientific controlled setting. The thing is, no one does that in the real world at all. Across the board, it doesn't happen at all. You could do it like in a medical facility, a research facility, whatever. You can say, well, you did this. Well, you just touched your mask. You got to put a new mask on and make sure it's fitted properly. Okay, great. That's all awesome. Nobody does that. No one's going to carry freaking 15 K95 masks in their bag.
That's why I said
and switch them out every single time. It's just not going to happen. So this is all pointless, but she still acts like you're killing people if you don't wear a mask. That's so ridiculous. Okay. Elizabeth Warren, she's still got bad ideas. She's introducing her wealth tax.
Hasn't she already introduced one? Is this a new one?
I don't know. I think there's some kind of Native American thing. You got to do it like every year or something like that. I'm not sure. Today, I'm introducing my wealth tax, and more than 50 members of Congress are joining me. It's time for the government to start working for American families, not just the ultra rich. And of course, she's going to have people give 2 pennies. What they do is, this is a really funny thing that they do. See, people don't like it when you put percentages on them because that looks bad. They're like, well, people are already paying percentages. We got percentages. We're paying to look at my check. There's percentages out of it and all that. Okay. But she has found that it tests way better when you just say, we're not going to do 2%. We're going to do 2 pennies out of every single 100 pennies.
We're just taking 2 of them.
And by the way, if we do this, we could pay for universal child care. We're going to lower housing costs by building millions of new homes. We're going to slash child poverty. We're going to expand Medicare. We're going to provide free community college. And we're still going to have money left over for just 4 easy payments.
For more
She's always
wars.
doing this infomercial thing. Yeah, right. It's actually just going to get spent on wars is what's going to happen. These people never say we're going to do this tax and then have a balanced budget and not like destroy our economy and the dollar and keep borrowing money from your grandchildren. It's always, we're going to do this tax and we're going to do way more things than what the tax could possibly fund and just keep going further and further
and
into
have
debt
money
forever.
left over.
Yeah. We'll move quicker and get to Katie Porter. She's still crazy as well. And she has an idea. She identified the problem in California. See, California's got problems. And the problem is businesses are charged the same tax rate. Your business, my business, Walmart, charge the same tax rate. See, with people, we steal more from you according to how successful you are. The more successful you are, the harder we try to punish you for it.
So we should lower everyone's tax rate so it's the same.
That does sound like better.
We should lower the ones that are paying anything to
just to nothing is what we should do.
Okay.
Here's Katie Porter.
Is that her idea?
That's exactly not her idea at all. Yeah.
We have a flat corporate tax. So a corporation that makes, say, $100 a year in profits, they pay 8.84%. And many of them pay much less than that. In fact, a lot of corporations in California, including profitable large ones, pay 0 in California state taxes. That's about closing tax loopholes, which I also want to do and have a track record of doing. If a corporation makes $1 million a year, guess what they pay? 8.84%. If a corporation makes $1 billion in profits, you got it, 8.84%. Now, that's not how your taxes work. If you make more in a year and you trip up into a new tax bracket, you have to pay a little bit more. That's what a progressive tax is. And we should do the same thing with corporations. So saying to corporations, in your most profitable year, you're going to have to pay a little bit more tax. And that's how income taxes work for us. That's how taxes should work for corporations. So we're not targeting big business. We're not targeting little business. We're saying...
I think this is an argument that we should be treated the same as corporations.
Yeah.
And pay a flat tax. She makes like this really stupid comparison, and it's smart. She's good at manipulating people. She always has been. She pulls out these signs, and it's like, oh, well, it's written on a whiteboard, so it's got to be a pretty good idea overall.
Hey, you did well with a little whiteboard.
I did. It works. It grabs people's attention when you're writing stuff on a whiteboard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like one of our first videos, and also one of our biggest videos, and it's just me writing stuff on a whiteboard. She's like, well, corporation who's making $100 a year, you know what they pay? 8.84%.
Except they don't.
So no, they're not going to. A corporation making $1 million a year, you know what they pay? 8.84%. You know what a way that wouldn't work if you explain this to people? You said a corporation who's making $100 a year, you know what they pay? $8. Corporation who makes $1 million a year, you know what they pay? $88,000. Or however much it is, something like that. I do the thing.
8,000.
I think that's what I think it's 80. I'm pretty sure it's $80,000. And so a corporation that makes $1 billion a year, they're going to pay 1,000 times more than that. And so we find actually is the people who make way more money, they pay way more into the taxes than that lowly company who made $100 that year. But when you say it as a percentage, you're like, well, why should a company making $100 a year pay the same as a company who's making $1 million a year? Well, they're not.
They're not paying the same.
They pay way more money. Unless they incurred a ton of losses and they get the write-offs from losses and stuff like that. So that's important too. Okay, so Katie Porter's still annoying and dumb. We know that. I think we'll have to close this at number 10, even though we have a lot of different things.
Good Lord. I tell you what, it's a little tiring going through dumb things. I feel dumber after we do this on Fridays.
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes me like kind of the weekend to recover.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember, I read like 30 other dumb things before this.
Yeah.
Our X feed
Kudos
is
to you.
Totally screwed right now. It's just all the dumbest things that there are on the entire internet. They all get sent to us. Grok's like, this guy loves dumb stuff, man. You're going to send it to this guy. He loves the dumb stuff. Everyone go get your votes in. Other things that we didn't have time to mention because it's almost freaking 5 p.m. right now on a Friday.
All right, while the live group is voting, then I need to tell you how you can join.
I'm going to tell you first, though. Number one was timelines and boats. Boats and timelines.
Joes.
Boats and Joes. Number 2, Diego Garcia. I'm going to be a Diego Garcia truther until I see the evidence, and then I will not believe it. Number 3, just says nukes. I think it's probably all the propaganda stuff and had to do with J.D. Vance's nuke vest comments. Number 4,
imagine if they had nukes.
Yeah. Number 4, the ground war, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, letting everyone know that this is going to be a long conflict, which is the exact opposite of what he said it was going to be like a month ago. Number 5, Trump. Is that even dumb? I mean, I'm kind of glad he says this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad he said it. I'm upset about what he said, but I'm glad that he says that kind of stuff, which is him saying, don't say war. He's not going to call it a war because you'd have to declare it. And the people haven't declared the war. Number 6, there was some Israel stuff. Number 7, the America First Award. Donald Trump, winner. Number 8, Taylor Lorenz is still doing this thing right now. Number 9 was Elizabeth Warren with the wealth tax and Katie Porter with the anti-flat tax for corporations. It's obviously fair if you're going to have a tax, which you shouldn't, that everyone pay the same tax rate. Clearly, that's the most fair way to do a tax. And number 10 was the robbery and then a bunch of commie stuff that we didn't get to. Sorry.
All right, while you're voting, while the Fed Haters Club is voting, if you're watching on YouTube, please comment, like, and share. And then if you want to be part of the voting process, you do have to get behind our paywall. And you can do that by going to joingml.com, be part of the Fed Haters Club. There you can submit submissions. You could upload submissions. You could submit dumb bleeps.
You could submit uploads.
That could potentially be on Dumb Bleep of the Week, and that would be fun. And it's a fun game.
I've really been needing more stuff.
And so you got to go to joingml.com to do that. Thank you for our new members coming in. We appreciate you. If you want to support the show with some dollars, then you can go to the links in the show notes to support the sponsors that support this show. The winner is
Trump. Don't say.
I
called it. Don't say war.
Whore. Don't say whore.
See, that's what he gets for telling the truth. He wins Dumb Bleep of the Week. That's what kind of incentive is it when someone tells the truth that he ends up winning dumbest thing this week? That's
all right,
just
well,
crazy.
I hope you all enjoyed it. Do all the things I said or don't. I don't really care, but Nate does. This guy loses sleep over it. In fact, that could be what leads to your narcolepsy.
People not
sharing the show, commenting, joining the Fed Haters Club.
It's very possible. Yeah.
Those types of things.
I think it is. My sleep doctor said that.
Yes. That's why I brought it up.
I went to the sleep doctor and he was like, well, have you guys been getting comments on your YouTube videos?
And you said not enough.
Are people hitting like? Are they subscribing on YouTube? Are they leaving ratings and reviews on their favorite podcast apps? And I was like, well, sometimes. And he was like, well, that's it. Here's some medication.
Yeah.
Good doctor.
So it's y'all's fault. And that's why I said you need to do those things. It doesn't bother me one bit. I don't even read the comments. So actually I do read some of them. And then the ones that are negative, they don't bother me, but they do bother Nate.
We want specific anti-Charlie comments.
So do all those things and we'll be back again on Monday, I believe.
Yep.
Because last time I lied.
If we make it through the weekend.
Oh, unless Iran drops nuclear vests on Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Then we won't be here.
Wouldn't that be scary?
I'm terrified.
Yeah, that'd be really
I'm
scary.
probably going to sleep in the basement.
Just imagine.
Do you think this basement can survive a nuclear blast?
Well, not when the nuke is down here. They've already put a nuke in everyone's house, I bet.
It's in this microphone.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be here on Monday. Hope you guys have a good day, a good weekend, and a good morning, Liberty.